I have entitled my talk, "It's in the Second Drawer to the Left of the Stove." That will make sense in a little bit. My earliest recollection of home sharing was when I was 4 years old. In my family, where I lived with my parents, we often would have people staying with us, and the first ones that I remember the most were two teachers who used to teach in the local two-room school. And I often wondered, oh, what kind of activities and secrets are hidden in that two-room building? And I was too young to go, so I didn't know anything about it. So that was my first experience. The second most significant experience as a child, and it had to do with winter. And winter was a time when my family would often host older people, and there were several of them, and they all had their own personalities. There was a nice man named Alfred who used to build musical instruments out of wood that he found on his own property. There were a couple of other ladies, and there was also they lived with us in the winter, and I think a lot of that had to do with the cost of heating. It was a little bit better for them financially if they didn't have to heat their homes. And it was also a little bit better for my family because they would help out with the cost of a variety of things. And they were all French-Acadian, so we managed to eat a lot of raw pie during those years. My mom looked after everybody, the little ones and the older ones, and my dad was often away. And so as I was preparing this, I was thinking that this really, I think, it speaks more to my mom than my own story, but a little bit of it is also mine. So if we fast track forward a few years, and I am by now an adult, a married woman with a husband and with a daughter, Chantal. And Chris and I decided at one point that we would look into hosting a young individual through the Rotary Club. And the Rotary Club had just started in the particular area where we lived. So my daughter Chantal and I thought it would be great to have another young woman in our midst. So off we went to the airport to meet our girl from France. And we got there, and what we found was this tall, lanky boy with huge ears and a big sign that said, Pelham. Well, we knew we were in for this guy, and the girl that we had hoped to have was not able, or had backed out, was not able to do it. So this boy, who was, I think he was 16 at the time, and so we set him up at home, and in a very short time, he became a member of the family. He was a great chef, and we ate really well. My father used to say, he's a good cook, but boy, he makes an awful mess in the kitchen. And he did. He made an awful mess in the kitchen. Later, a couple of years after that, we decided to host people coming through Canada World Youth. If you're familiar with Canada World Youth, they are an association that teams one Canadian and one person from a developing country, usually. So our first guests were from Canada and Jamaica. It was a wonderful experience. We spent the whole summer just being silly and getting to know each other and enjoying each other's company. It was great. Then a couple of years later, we decided to try again Canada World Youth. So this time we got a Canadian and a Jamaican again. And I think that was probably the first time that we experienced some challenges. And in particular, one of the girls who was with us, I think, was kind of troubled and unsure what her future would hold. And so some of it was a little bit difficult. And I think, you know, having somebody else in your home can be a little bit difficult. It's not always sunshine. So all of these people so far have been French-speaking. The next people that we have invited and hosted in our home came as a business delegation. They came from Hungary, and they stayed with us for quite a long period of time. There were 2 individuals, and they needed separate accommodations. So we had to figure out how that was going to work, because we didn't really have enough single bedrooms. But anyway, we did figure it out, and it all worked out. Their English was almost non-existent, and we were not very good at Hungarian. So what we did find was that mealtime, it doesn't matter how many languages you speak or don't speak. Mealtime and preparation is always fun. And I remember it being quite chaotic at times. And I remember one time my daughter, who would have been maybe, I don't know, 8, 9 years old or something, she came in from school one day and she said, "Mom, does anybody speak English in this house?" And I think, you know, she was experiencing, we always thought it was a benefit to her because she was an only child, and the fact of having other people in the house enabled her to understand that people come from different backgrounds and have different skills. I always thought that was a good thing for her. Then our last live-in guest was from Chile, and she came to do a teacher training, and she stayed, and her English skills were good, so language really wasn't very much of a problem. So when I look back, I am grateful for the experiences that we have had as a family. I think it has enriched us and made us all the stronger and more accepting. When I think back about the elders that we have had in my parents' home, I think I learned patience and I learned compassion, and I learned to respect people of a different generation. And sometimes with the young people, I also have learned a lot. I've learned to be patient, and I've learned to understand and to try to see from another person's perspective. And so all of these experiences that I've lived, or we've lived as a family, I think transitioned very well. We're currently not hosting anybody, but I have had the great pleasure and honor of teaching ESL to a number of immigrants who have come from Syria, Venezuela, and most recently a couple of families from Ukraine. And so now so many things have happened in our lives that have really enriched our lives, and I am grateful for the experience. I currently am a coordinator of the volunteers at the Community Enterprise Center, so some of you may have come to I've seen some faces that I recognize, people who have dropped into the center. It's a fun experience. I think perhaps the most fun experience last year was on one of the coldest days ever. I got to be Santa's helper, and that was fabulous. It was wonderful to see the kids coming in. And so that's pretty much, oh yeah, so in closing, yes. So in most of the people who come, and I think anybody who has hosted, you will know this, people are always asking, where is this, where is that? And so, you know, whether it's a spatula or it's a potato masher or bread knife, and they would always ask where it is. My answer is, it's always the second drawer to the left of the stove. Thank you.